This may look just like so many other desert towns throughout the American West, but hiding beneath the surface is a story of a much darker past. A story of unfair imprisonment, not for crimes they committed, but simply because of their ancestry. Welcome to Delta, Utah. With only a population of just over 3,600 people, Delta is the largest city in Millard County, not a bustling metropolis or a super-industrial town. In fact, this area is agricultural in its roots, something you don't see a lot of in the desert. But with the Sevier River winding through the area, the water supply was taken advantage of to create agricultural fields in the area, many of which are still growing crops today. Interestingly, this is one of only a handful of towns or cities of similar size that were not master planned in some fashion by the Latter-day Saints. Therefore, it does not follow the typical Utah centralized system of street numbers, concentrically going out from around the local church meeting house. If you had just driven into town without knowing any better on Route 50, known as the loneliest road in America, which also serves as Delta's main street, you probably wouldn't see this town as much more than a stop for food and fuel. However, there's a history here that is equally fascinating and horrifying. The story of Topaz, Utah, whose story is told at the Topaz Museum. Topaz was an internment camp where a total of 11,212 Japanese Americans were imprisoned during World War II. Men, women, and children, most of whom came from the San Francisco Bay Area. Their only crime? Being of Japanese heritage. In the Topaz Museum, your visit begins by watching two films that were actually very well put together about the internment camp that once stood just a few miles outside of Delta. The museum includes so many different objects of daily life in the internment camp, identification tags, food, and even includes portions of two of the buildings, including a replica of one of the housing units showing the bare-bones structures that these people were forced to call home, how tight and cramped they would have been, living in basically a single room with their family. It was hot in the deserts of Utah and wildly unpleasant to live here. There is also an original recreation hall out behind the museum that was moved to this site that you can walk into and look around. It has some smaller displays in it as well. Some historical sites are fun to visit. This one had a heaviness to it. I didn't actually get to drive out to the grounds where the actual internment camp was due to the depleting sunlight. Although, from what I have seen online, there isn't much to see there anymore today, other than some outlines on the ground. Perhaps on a trip through the area again, I will stop and take a look at the site of the Topaz Internment Camp with a perspective that has been well informed by the carefully curated displays at the Topaz Museum. I can't recommend the Topaz Museum highly enough, and the staff was amazing. Right next door to the Topaz Museum is the Great Basin Museum. It was much less thrilling than the Topaz Museum. Like so many rural museums, it seemed to be just a collection of random objects with some tie to the local area. It was okay to go through, but there wasn't much there that would warrant a special stop if you have seen other museums of its kind. Still, I didn't regret going in to see what they had, and I always leave museums like this with a deeper understanding of what life was like in these areas throughout the years since the community had been established here. Delta has some restaurants, a few hotels, an RV park, and enough commercial businesses to fill up a weekend or a day trip out here to see the area. While it is not a typical tourist destination, I would absolutely say that Delta and the Topaz site would be worth the trip out into rural Utah, if for nothing else than to connect with a part of history that some people might try to sweep under the rug and hide from future generations. Delta isn't shy about telling the truth of what happened here and the lives that were forever affected by it. We'll see you next time somewhere else down the road.